Oh, fuck off. Oops.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutayambi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. And may they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Okay, let's do the mantras now. I just thought I heard someone else's voices there, so check to make sure everybody's on mute, Leanne, if you could. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Hum Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Tayatam gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Tayatam gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Yeah, it was just some sort of weird noise that I heard. Just to let you guys who don't know, the reason why we don't have the mics open is because it doesn't sync up. It's all out of time. And when one person's talking, it kind of cuts off the next person. And so we did try to do that the first week we did these classes at the start of July in 2020. And yeah, it was all messy. I couldn't even keep the recording, really. But that's okay. So that's the reason why we do it as it is, just with my voice, so I can give the Dharma talk. Otherwise, of course, it would be lovely if I could get you guys to ask questions and we could do it that way. But unfortunately, like I said, it tends to mess with the visual video as well as the audio. Actually, the audio even worse. Okay, so let's get ourselves ready for a little bit of meditation. And we're going to start, as per usual, with releasing the tension, whatever tension we may have in the body. So we'll start from, by the way, you can start from the top too. You can start from the top of your head, go down your arms, go down your legs. We just, in this class, have the habit of starting at the feet. So it's up to yourself. And sometimes you can change it around for yourself. Help yourself to give up attachment to the method even, because that's even essential eventually. Today, of course, I would like to dedicate it to all living beings, actually, the class today and all of the classes. But keep in mind, specifically, just about midnight last night, the most venerable Thich Nhat Hanh passed away, 95 years old, I think. And so we can maybe bring him to our mind as we chant the dedication later. I'm sure that this great master, though, doesn't need our merits, even though it's our own benefit. We give the merit or share or dedicate the merits, okay, for our own benefit. He himself is so wonderful, so beautiful, and such a great master. I'm sure he has abundant amount and vast amounts of merits, and maybe even enlightened already. Okay, so let's close our eyes, lips gently touching, tongue resting on the upper palate, in the mouth above the top teeth, chin ever so slightly tucked in to keep the back of your neck straight. Shoulders nice and upright without being rigid, nice and calm and relaxed. Eyes gently closed. And by the way, if you have the habit with your eyes closed, to get really sleepy really quickly, or even fall asleep, then maybe you should use the method of keeping the eyes slightly open, like half open, and looking in front of you, not sort of focusing on anything, but just look at just down in front of you. Or you could focus on a tiny little speck on the computer or on the floor if you're sitting on the floor. And that way it will help yourself to remain alert, more alert. But don't look around, don't be distracted by visual objects around you. So now starting from the tips of the toes, work your way up your legs and then the upper torso to your shoulders, down to the tips of your fingers, and then back up to the top of your head. And when you are ready, bring your focus now to the tip of your nose and in between your eyebrows, and focus on the feeling of the breath as you breathe in and out, in your nose, all the way into your lungs, and then back out your nose again. And if you're so inclined, it may be helpful for you to count, going from 1 up to 10. 1 in-breath and an out-breath is 1, and then 2, 3, and so forth. But don't go past 10, otherwise the counting may become the focus. This is an extra layer of technique. So breathing in, breathing out. That's all you have to do right now. If thoughts or mental activities arise, let them go naturally. Don't cling to them. Don't grasp at them. Try to force them away. or deny them, just by refocusing onto your breath gently. Let them go naturally. And if your mind starts to become a little bit dull, then wake it up a little bit by refocusing on your breath more brightly. Trust in the method and trust in yourself. So let's practice like this for a few minutes in silence. So now you can feel very pleased with yourself for engaging in the practice and generate this loving kindness, universal loving kindness now, and fill your whole being with it. Loving kindness to yourself. Have such thoughts as, may I be happy. May I be free from suffering. May I be peaceful. Fill yourself with so much loving kindness that it now overflows and radiates outwards, initially to your family, friends, your loved ones. May they also be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. Gradually further and further now, to also include those you may regard as strangers. May they be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. And also include those that you may regard as enemies, those people that irritate you, even make you angry. May all of these people be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. Now extend the loving kindness out also to all of those living beings around your immediate area, whether they live on the land or under the land, in the waters, fly through the air, whatever form they have, all of the living beings. May they be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. And gradually continue to radiate this love and kindness out further and further, gathering momentum. More and more momentum to include your whole state now, as well as other states and counties throughout your whole country, and other countries throughout the whole world. And other worlds throughout the solar system. Other solar systems throughout the galaxy. Other galaxies throughout the whole universe. And beyond, throughout infinite space. At the same time, be present here and now to recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhicitta not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And may the precious pure Shunyata not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And so at present for this week and possibly next week as well, I'm explaining, giving a little bit of commentary on the preliminary prayers that we recite at the beginning of the classes. And also including that one will come up as well. So I spoke already about the paying homage in Pali, also taking refuge in Pali, then Sanskrit, and then generating bodhicitta in English. And last week as well, we covered the 4 immeasurables. Now, I won't talk anymore about the 4 immeasurables, apart from the fact that we should take responsibility to have this happen. You know, that we say, may all beings have happiness and its causes. Then we ourselves take responsibility to do whatever we can to make this happen. At very least, we avoid causing suffering for others, difficulties, and then we engage in causing the happiness, helping them to be free from suffering, and so forth, okay? But also that we are not perfect yet, so that we ask the Buddha to inspire us. Of course, we have to generate the inspiration ourselves from the Buddha, the idea of the Buddha, the thoughts of the Buddha, and the Buddhist teachings. Okay, so I didn't mention those last two lines that I've added to that 4 immeasurable prayer. And so after we finish the commentary on these prayers, and we go back to probably 3 weeks talking about the prajna paramita, or the perfection of wisdom. And specifically, we would be talking about the wisdom, utilizing the wisdom tool of hearing, utilizing the wisdom tool of contemplating, and also of meditating, absorbing the mind with wisdom. Like I said, take about 3 weeks to do that. And then the following week after that, as I mentioned, I will summarize, probably for 2 weeks, the 6 paramita commentary, of which we've been doing now for some months. And part of that, I will give a little bit more detailed commentary on the 4 immeasurables, which of course is part of the practice of the 6 paramitas. And then also I will speak about the 7-point method, the cause and effect method for mind training, the mind in Bodhicitta. Okay, so from Master Asanga, you can look this up yourself. I won't give you the total details of these masters, okay? But Master Asanga's teachings on the 7-point mind training and the traditions that have come from this, okay, would focus on this 7-point cause and effect mind training in Bodhicitta, okay? And there is another 7-point mind training as well by Master Atisha, but it's not that one I'm talking about. Okay, so don't be confused by that. And then, of course, we have the traditions that have come from Master Nagarjuna, the Madhyamika tradition. And, of course, the other one you can call Chittamitra or Yogacara. Okay, I'm saying these Sanskrit words so that you yourself, if you're so inclined, you can look them up. And so Master Nagarjuna, his tradition focused specifically on the 4 immeasurables. Okay, so I just thought I'd mention that. So I thought maybe that for 1 or 2 weeks I will give some commentary on that as part of the summary before we go into some classes with Q&A, with questions and answers before the next subject begins. Okay, so now we're up to what we call the 7-limb prayer. It can also be known as the 7-branch prayer. It's called 7 limbs or 7 branches because it is actually 7 prayers within the one prayer. The first line we say, prostrate my body, speech, and mind, right? So the first line is basically paying homage again and venerating, creating this respect in the Buddha, in the Dharma, in the Sangha, specifically in the teachings. Okay, so reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. Prostrate now, you can do with the body as you do this prayer. I don't know if you notice, if you have your eyes open when we're reciting this, I go like this. I reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, mind. So the hands in like the lotus flower mudra, body is here, so what we call the 3rd eye chakra, and then speech at the throat chakra, and mind at the heart chakra, okay? And as we do this, also we are kind of like saying refuge in a sense, taking refuge as well as doing this in our mind, okay? So body, speech, mind. So reverently, we prostrate with our body, speech, and mind. Reverently, of course, we have reverence for the Buddha. We don't just see the Buddha, obviously, or the Dharma as just ordinary worldly things. They are so beneficial, and the Sangha as well. That's why we call them the 3 jewels. But I've already spoken about that. So if you want more clarity and didn't participate last week or the last class of 2021, then have a look at those videos again. And so the next one is, and make clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. Now this offerings, what is the best offering we can make to the Buddha, to the Dharma, to the Sangha, and to ourselves? Actually, what is the best offering to put the teachings into practice? So you can, make all these physical offerings of prostration as well. That's an offering of the physical activities in sharing the Dharma, in upkeeping the Dharma in our practice, but also you can do these things in your mind. So you can, flowers, fruits, all of these nice things. Why do we give that? Well, in a temple, for instance, or in your home, you may make offerings of nice smelling things, nice looking things, things that are very valuable to us, such as fruits and so forth, our sustenance. We do this because, one, we're giving up things. So it's a mental practice, isn't it? So you're actually giving up your attachment. So whatever you find pleasing, you should make offerings. Whatever it is that you really have attachments towards, whatever you find pleasurable, give that. Even if you don't give it physically, because maybe you need it. You know, if you only have, you know, one apple and you're not going shopping for another week, then maybe you need that apple. But you still make the offerings and put it on the altar, no problem, and do the offerings with your mind. And as you're doing these offerings, though, make it more vast. Maybe offer 1,000,000 apples or innumerable apples if you can. Or if you're a bit limited with your visualization, maybe 10 apples or 100 apples. And then, of course, I'm just using an apple as the metaphor for anything good. And then you can visualize this as being more vast. If you are visualizing yourself doing prostrations, you know, bowing, putting your head on the ground, maybe you can visualize there's, you know, 1,000,000 people doing that, all living beings doing that, or 1,000,000 of you doing that, you know, so that way it becomes more vast. You know, the more that we're able to open our mind to this vastness, this, you could say in a way, profundity, then actually the more we develop the conditions that enables us to be able to understand the teachings more, be able to implement the teachings more accurately, and practice more accurately, more precisely ourselves. Okay, so making the offerings is a very important thing. That's why you have as the first paramita is generosity. As I've said many times before, it can be known as the door to the Dharma, as you open the door, you know? And then we're able, with the more the mind is generous, the less attached and greedy we are. And so then we're able to be more moral, more patient in our practices, make more effort in the right direction, you know, and develop our concentration more and more, and then develop the wisdom more and more, of course, and, you know, develop our compassion, loving kindness, and so forth. But the generosity is very important. So making offerings, even though we are doing it right now, you know, I use the mudra, which represents the whole of infinite space, the universe, above, below, in all directions. Actually, you know, really, this is mental. It's a symbol. It's it stands for something that is so vast, so much beyond our understanding at the moment. And it's really good if we can start to develop this mind that at very least accepts all of these things that are, you could say, too deep for us right now. And then we're opening up the possibility to enable ourselves to really, really understand and take leaps and bounds on the Dharma path. Okay, so clouds of every types of offerings, actual offerings, and mentally transformed offerings. I think I'll leave it there. But this one, I could go on, probably do 3 or 4 classes just on this, you know, and but I will leave it there and maybe add to it a little bit in the future as well. And then I confess and repent all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time. I think maybe there's slightly different words, but I confess and all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time. Now I'm correct. Okay, so now we are repenting. Now thinking of the Buddha, thinking of a virtuous object, virtuous being or beings, then we have regret, positive regret towards these living beings that we put higher than ourselves. Because if we just do it to ourselves, just blandly like that, maybe we'd be a little bit lazy. You know, because it hasn't worked. We are not enlightened yet. So it hasn't worked 100% yet throughout infinite lifetimes in the past. So now we can utilize the thought or the image even of the Buddha and other high living beings such as the Bodhisattvas and so forth. Okay, and have this regret and then resolve not to engage in these actions again as much as we possibly can, eventually to totally eradicate even the propensity for them to rise, and then engage in the practice of purification and in this repentance, this confession. We have engaged in negative actions in the past. I'm sure that in this lifetime you can recall some, not to bring yourself down, but to be honest to yourself, because repentance as well eventually we end up being honest to ourselves, which is really necessary, obviously. But even we can't remember some things in this lifetime, and even previous lifetimes, we can't remember them. You know, even if we get the abilities to start to recall things, we don't know for sure, do we? Like maybe you think, oh, on that day I had an ice cream. But maybe, yeah, okay, you had an ice cream. but maybe you didn't remember the flavor. So it's not clear yet. Excuse me, my metaphor there. But actually, the ice cream really just for anything, any experience that you may have, that idea of deja vu. Maybe we did have that experience in previous life. Maybe that is a memory of something, but we're not for sure yet. But we can be for sure that we have engaged in some negative actions in the past, because otherwise we wouldn't have been reborn again. And but I must say this: we're born into the higher realms, so we are the virtuous realms. So predominantly we have engaged in good actions, virtuous actions, which I'll go into in a sec. But we have engaged in negative deeds, negative actions in the past, and that's why we have difficulties now. So think about some ailments you may have, or think about tiredness sometimes. So even the fact that we have to go to the toilet, one time years ago, in a teenage class I was teaching, probably when I first came back to Australia to live full time, and one of the teenagers said, "Well, my life is really good. I don't really feel like I'm suffering." And I said to them, "Do you have to go to the toilet?" And yes. I said, "Well, what happens if you have to go to the toilet in the middle of your favorite TV show?" And of course, they were smart aleck, and said, I'll just put a video on. So modern times, maybe this example isn't a great example in modern times, but he got my point. That the fact is that we are experiencing, even if we have really a lot of happiness, but it doesn't last. We created the cause for that happiness to end. For sure, throughout infinite lives. I know that this is really hard concept to perceive, the infinity, the lack of number of the amount of lives we've had. Then, of course, the next one, so we have to repent, okay, and just know this. The next one, number 4, is and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. And this includes ourselves, as I was alluding to before. We ourselves have created a lot of good karma to be born as human beings. Let's not waste it on just getting worldly stuff. Let's not waste it just on thinking of worldly things, things like politics and all this nonsense, business and money. And yes, we need to have some income and things like that in this world to survive physically. But actually the Dharma practice is what's so important. All of the other things that we are spending so much time on actually only help this lifetime, really, don't they? Whereas the Dharma practice goes into future lifetimes as well as this lifetime, until we eventually realize liberation ourselves. So rejoice in all of those good deeds that we may have done, even if we don't remember them. Rejoice in the rejoicing and so forth. And it says all holy and ordinary beings. So the holy beings, the great bodhisattvas, Buddhas, of course, needless to say, the great bodhisattvas, they are sacrificing themselves totally for the sake of others, to lead all living beings to enlightenment. They are traversing all of the stages of the path, the bodhisattva path to enlightenment. And also those other arhants and so forth, they are also virtuous, harmless beings. Okay, so you can rejoice in all of the goodness there. But also ordinary beings, ordinary human beings. Even those even higher realms in the heavenly realms are still very ordinary, because if they are not high on the path to the enlightenment, actually just experiencing the good results of their previous good deeds, but still rejoicing on all of those good deeds from them, and all of the good deeds from the lower realms even, because at some stage these beings in the animal realm, hungry ghost realm, even the hell realms, they do have some positive seeds, some good deeds they have engaged that will ripen at some time in the future. And so, like a human being right now, that maybe just helps somebody to, let's say there's an old lady, it's quite short, in a supermarket, and of course you're wearing a mask in there at the moment, and then you help her to reach some jar she can't reach up high. Or maybe somebody looks unhappy, you give them a smile, just some sort of acknowledgement that could make their day. So even acts like this, we rejoice in even these small acts of kindness. Okay, so I think that we'll leave that, And then the next two say, please remain until cyclic existence ends and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. Now, this is probably a little bit cryptic, really. Please remain until cyclic existence ends. This is kind of like asking the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas to remain being reborn in cyclic existence and until it ends, of which it maybe doesn't end. Actually, maybe I'll digress slightly. That's a good question for you to think about, okay? Don't try to give me answers or whatever. Maybe you could even call this like a koan, unanswerable question to be able to, that you can investigate and get deeper and deeper, deeper into your own mind. And that is, does cyclic existence end? Now, you can say yes and no. Because you can say yes, because when you attain enlightenment, no cyclic existence for you. But that doesn't mean that other living beings aren't experiencing cyclic existence. And because of the compassion, we have to benefit these living beings. Correct? So you can say yes and no. You can say neither yes and no. You can say yes, you can say no. None of them are 100% correct. That's why I mean it's an unanswerable question. But look for the answer, but don't attach to the answer. Don't expect to realize the answer. So a little bit of a Chan Zen teaching. So anyway, it's kind of like wishing that there's always, the Dharma is always in this world, that it doesn't disappear and doesn't lose its purity. And so we're wishing that that's the case. Please remain until cyclic existence ends. Because what the Buddha said, you know, the Dharma is now your refuge, your main refuge, isn't it? When he passed away in that lifetime. And so really important that we have this wish that the Dharma not be corrupted and not disappear from this world. Please remain until cyclic existence ends and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. Metaphor, turning the wheel of Dharma means give the teachings. So may there always be teachers in the world, especially the great masters that teach their students and then their students become teachers and like that. So let these teachers really be teachers, you know, authentic, really have learned well enough to be able to teach. And hopefully, you know, even you wish yourself that you want to do this, you know, that's a great wish, as long as you don't do it with ego. But actually this wish that you become the teacher as well, to teach others, even just through your actions. Only 1 minute left. So at least we got through this 7-limb prayer. And like next week, we will do the 4 with the 4 great vows of the Bodhisattva. And then the mantras, and then the dedication prayer. So the last line of this 7-limb practice, I dedicate all of the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. This is dedicating everything from yourself and all the innumerable living beings to all living beings attaining enlightenment, the great enlightenment, free from samsara. Does it exist? Not exist. Who knows? I rejoice in your goodness always, and I'll see you next week online. Please look after yourselves. Take care.